Thank you so much for watching Landumc Goes There. Please subscribe and hit the like button and the bell notification button. The China Syndrome is a 1979 disaster thriller film that was directed by James Bridges and was written by himself, Mike Gray, and T.S. Cook. The movie stars Jane Fonda, Jack Lemmon, and Michael Douglas. The term China Syndrome describes a fictional result of a nuclear meltdown where the reactor components melt through their containing structures and into the underlying Earth all the way to China. The storyline for the film goes that while doing a series of reports on alternate energy sources, a reporter named Kimberly Wells witnesses an accident at a nuclear power plant. Wells is determined to report the incident, but she soon finds herself entangled in a sinister conspiracy to keep the full impact of what she witnessed a secret. The first script for the film was written in the mid-1970s. Kirk Douglas initially wanted to produce this film. Immediately after he did One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest in 1975. Jack Lemmon agreed to play his role as early as 1976. Douglas was enormously grateful to Lemmon as he remained ready to start work on the project with very short notice for over a year before the production started, passing up other work that he could have done in the process. To return this favor, Douglas amended the shooting schedule to allow Lemmon to attend rehearsals for the Broadway play Tribute from 1970, the film version of which would later star Lemmon. When the movie was first released in March of 1979, nuclear power executives soon quickly lambasted the picture as being sheer fiction, and it was considered a character assassination of the entire industry. Then, 12 days later, after its launch, the 3 Mile Island nuclear accident occurred near Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. That incident released radioactive steam all across the area that it was associated with. This occurred just weeks after the release of the movie, so many people associated the movie with 3 Mile Island. However, the potentially far more dangerous incident at Brown's Ferry in Alabama happened in 1975. Which was 4 years earlier, and was caused by a number of construction flaws, operational issues, and safety failures at that location. Brown's Ferry is more properly the true basis for the story. No similar situation ever happened in California. The model for the control room of the plant was based upon the control room at the Trojan nuclear power plant in Rainier, Oregon. At that time, it was the only nuclear power plant in the U.S. to offer tours that included a tour of the gallery that looked down into the control room. Producer Michael Douglas creatively demanded a harsh realism for the movie by not having any musical score on the soundtrack, except for Stephen Bishop's theme song, Somewhere in Between. To prepare for his role as the TV cameraman, Douglas went on news rounds with various television camera crew operators. One of them was Bob Brown, who later tragically died in the Jonestown Massacre in Guyana. Screenwriter Mike Gray's early background as an engineer and a technical writer gave the scenes in the power plant the kind of drama that defies fictionalization. During the early script development, the producer Douglas brought in another writer, T.S. Cook, just for the purpose of polishing up the script. They originally wanted Richard Dreyfuss to be cast as the cameraman, but he pulled out shortly before filming was to start. Michael Douglas, who was producing the film, just decided to take his role instead. The Ventana power plant was based on the experimental nuclear reactor that Rocketdyne operated in its Santa Souza field laboratory east of Thousand Oaks, California. The Rocketdyne reactor had numerous failures and accidents. This was all due to its experimental nature, not shoddy workmanship, and was finally shut down in 2006. Jane Fonda dyed her hair to a bright red for the movie. This was because she had noticed that most of the on-camera female newscasters that she had observed had sported dyed hair. She once remarked that she must have just been acting out her Brenda Starr fantasy. Michael Douglas says that he feels that this movie and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest have in common the classic dramatic situation of man versus institutions. In the case of this movie, those institutions are the many-headed monsters of modern media and technological corporations. He states it's basically man against machinery, and he also makes the point that most people really love stories about heroes, where the leading characters are faced with dramatic choices, decisions that would make them a hero. This is the same plane to which Cuckoo's Nest was so involving. Although this film is dealing with more complicated and controversial issues, the story is presented in a straightforward fashion, just like Cuckoo's Nest. Columbia Pictures executives initially wanted to change the movie's title. Their research had shown that the public tended to think the word syndrome was a medical term associated with disease. These same executives offered alternate titles such as Power and Eyewitness. Interestingly enough, during the next decade of the 1980s, Hollywood movies would go on to be actually named with those titles. Both films, Power from 1986 and Eyewitness from 1981, were complete flops at the box office. Actress Jane Fonda, who had a lot of clout in Hollywood, made the studio executives accept the title of The China Syndrome. Jane Fonda's feelings on the film was that it was a terrific thriller, much like her movie from 1971, Clute, which won her the Best Actress Oscar for her performance as the hunted call girl. But in this movie, it moves to a deeper level. The China Syndrome is quite a complex human story about the consequences of choices. She felt like this movie would speak to a lot of people, and it did. Now, Jane Fonda ended up breaking her ankle towards the end of shooting, and she had to be flown away for treatment. Scenes were shot around her after that, and they used thorough editing to kind of cover up this fact. It's hard to notice in the final cut of the film. But this act of breaking her ankle on the set meant that Fonda could no longer take ballet classes that she had done for years and years. Instead, she decided to take up aerobics after this accident. One thing led to another, and her exercise routine of aerobics led into a famous home exercise video franchise. In July of 1982, her first exercise video was released. This VHS tape became a bestseller and put her on the charts as the workout queen. She went on to release further videos throughout the 80s and into 1995. Between the years of 1982 and 1995, her videos sold more than 17 million copies. Her ballet-style leg warmers began to rage in popularity, starting a fashion trend of their own. So this is just a small bit of trivia that occurred from an accident that happened on the set of this film. If you've never seen this movie, take a look at it. It's a fun one to watch. Jack Lemmon is amazing in it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.